everybody. Love Ready to Connect. Become a Patreon supporter for $1 a month, and that'll earn you a shout out or a credit roll.
Love Ready to Connect? Why not support us with the Ready to Connect Enthusiast tier? For $5 a month, you get exclusive content as well as power voting on our next topics, in addition to everything you get as a Ready to Connect supporter.
If you love Ready to Connect and you want to become a Ready to Connect insider for $10 a month, in addition to everything that you'll get in the other two tiers, you will also get a chance to be a guest on our podcast. All tiers, no matter how you choose to support Ready to Connect, you will be getting the podcast episodes a day early.
Thanks for supporting us.
This podcast is for entertainment purposes only and does not constitute professional advice. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are the speaker's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of their affiliated organizations.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to Ready to Connect. I am Heather.
I'm Lisa.
And I'm Ryan.
And today we continue our Haunted America series. And today we're going to be going to Colorado, Wyoming, and
Montana.
Ooh, all right. Getting out in prairie country now. Big stuff. Well, maybe not so much Colorado, but definitely Wyoming and Montana. We're starting to move to that prairie country. And I did find that Wyoming hauntings are no fluff. They're no fluff and lots of history and lots of patterns behind the stories that kind of persist around Wyoming and probably in Montana too, where the prairies are full of wind and lots of dust bunnies, but lots of haunted stories. I went into Wyoming. Well, I didn't go physically there, but if anybody would like to host us and have us come out and do some recordings, we're always looking for an adventure. But I dug into Wyoming this week and noticed that there was a lot of frontier violence and of the past. And of course, being so isolated over there in Wyoming, there was a lot of heartbreak. And so it feels like the soil over there holds these ghost stories, lots of sudden deaths and loneliness and unfinished business. But my first research that I did was the Occidental Hotel in Buffalo, Wyoming. It was built in 1880, and it was full of cowboys, outlaws, and one of the biggest co-stars of Wyoming is obviously Butch Cassidy. He's famous for lots of things, right? Lots of documentation on his behaviors and what he did. But it appears that at the Occidental Hotel that he was a frequent visitor as a traveler. There are early reported stories as far as the 1880, and it went all the way into the 1900s and right up to now. Lots of oral stories went around this Occidental Hotel. But one of the big things that stood out to me was a young girl named Emily, and she is said to be dressed in white, and she has beautiful long hair. And she is seen walking the halls, laughing, and she loves to touch the guests, and she loves to do the supportive touch, like on the back, on the lower back, or on the shoulder, or on the arm, or even on the hand. It's said that she pats people's hands to let them know they're okay, which I think is great because as a healer, I think Lisa can contest to this, and Ryan, you could probably contest to. Sometimes just the simple touch makes someone just feel so much better, right? They feel, safe in the environment they are with you, right?
Absolutely. Oh, I have to say, if I was to get touched on the back or the shoulder or a hand and nobody was there doing it, I'm not sure if it would come across as supportive or creepy. So
I think you can feel the difference of something, even a ghost or a spirit's energy, their intention of why they're placing their hands on you. I know there are ghost hunters out there that dwell in that negative and ask spirits to punch them or scratch them. And, you're just antagonizing someone to do that. I mean, if I was a ghost and you were standing in front of me, come on, hit me, I probably just do it out of fun,
I think you and I, Heather, particularly, we could probably pick that up. I can definitely feel intention behind things when it comes to the spirit world, being clear set in it. So I would get that it was supportive, but a layperson who's just somewhere and gets touched, I think sometimes,
Could start panic. Sure.
it could make someone feel like a little creepy. But yeah, I mean, at least it's on the shoulder of the hand, nowhere else. So
Yeah, no, it didn't seem like didn't feel like she was doing it to be harmful. She's been said throughout the folklore of stories that I gathered at this hotel that she's always laughing, and people hear this laughter, and all the hauntings that I read about, it wasn't like the creepy laughter like the horror movies talk about, or have people do. It was one of those genuine, like, young child, laughs where it makes you smile. And there is that difference, right? When someone laughs in an evil way or kind of sinister way versus a young child's just pure laughter. I mean, I know as a grandma over there, Miss Lisa, your grandson has found his belly laugh, right? And that laughter is just so contagious, right?
it just makes you smile. You can't not smile when you hear babies laughing. It's just, you can't not. You have to be in a really bad place to find it annoying, I think.
Exactly, exactly. So that's kind of the folklore around this hotel where it's that kind of laughter and it's inspirational versus, but it is said that Emily will come into your room and she'll sit on the bed. So you'll actually be able to see the bed depressions. People say that they often feel their hair being either stroked, or if you choose not to pay attention to her, she'll do a slight little tug, but nobody is reporting it as like someone ripping hair out or pulling you in the wrong direction or anything like that. This generally seems to be like an overall, like, really beautiful encounter with a young lady, young child spirit.
I could just affirm, like, my grandson now, he's younger than probably the spirit Emily is, but he likes to play with the hair. Like when he's taking his bottle, he'll start to pull and play with my hair. He just finds that kind of maybe soothing or fascinating. But I have a question for you too before you go much further, because you said you can see the depression on the bed, right, when she sits down. Have either of you ever felt in your own bed someone sitting down on it, a spirit sitting down, and you feel that happen?
Yeah, I felt that. My mother has actually experienced that as well, and she knew it was her grandfather coming to visit her. But yeah, I felt that.
You could feel it. And I also feel
Yeah.
like, well, I have a lot of spirit kitties, and I can feel when they jump up on the bed and stuff. And I wonder how many of our listeners have had that same kind of experience, so they can probably relate to the experience that Emily is giving in this room of sitting on the bed.
Absolutely. I mean, it's probably pretty consistent here at my house. We have Serafina, and she comes and jumps up on the bed every night. Every now and then, my dog Hunter, you can feel him jump up on the bed when he comes to visit. It's far and few between at this point. Hunter's been gone for quite some time, now at least 14 years. So he doesn't come as often, but generally, if you talk about him, he'll come and visit and give you a good. He was a lab, so, and he did the helicopter tail, so you can feel the
Oh,
tail going in like the wind, the fan.
yeah, yeah.
But I have many visitations who don't respect my boundaries of this is my time to sleep.
Mhm.
Spirit will come and just sit on the bed and expect me to wake up and have a full conversation with them. It's so important to do boundary work as a psychic medium because you do need to sleep. Otherwise, you just turn into a zombie. So, but what I have found is when it's not a loved one and someone wants my attention, there's a good reason why they're coming to speak to me. So, you kind of give it a little grace, but you don't let it happen all the time. There's a lot of boundary work you have to do for sure. But I apparently at the Occidental Hotel, you can rent room 19 and you will be able to talk with Emily, and you will be, or the Bordello suite apparently, and it is said that she she opens the door, she comes in, she will talk to you. You can even record her. I found many Haunted America ghost stories from other podcasters available where they're talking about how they had a positive encounter with Miss Emily. So I'm okay with this. Like, I don't mind if there's a physical interaction when it comes to it being playful and gentle and kind and uplifting. But apparently, this hotel has been in operation for so long that it actually experienced cholera. Is that how you say it? Cholera? Cholera. Cholera, right?
Cholera, yeah.
Cholera. Sorry. Yes. Sorry. Apparently, my English language is not fully formed this morning.
A little more coffee.
So I would imagine. I don't know a lot about cholera. Does anybody? Do you two know anything about cholera? It must be horrific. I mean, I can't imagine any kind of death is right.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't sound fun.
No, no. So, I mean, just in a quick search, yeah, cholera is like acute diarrheal infection. It attacks the intestines, and you tend to get it from contaminated food or water. So
when Mike and I were in Africa this past fall, when we were in Africa, cholera was one of the things that we had to be prepared for. So we had to have anti-diarrheal, anti-nausea medicine with us. I'm trying to think is if cholera was one of the things that we got immunizations for. I can't remember.
I would think
But
so.
but cholera is pretty intense. If you need to get to medical help almost immediately,
Immediately.
or you will basically die of dehydration because you cannot
Yes.
stop the diarrhea or that comes from it.
From what I'm reading here, that the onset of it, if you don't get the help immediately, you will dehydrate so fast that it immediately will cause muscle cramps, vomiting, obviously the stools, and it's life threatening. So it requires immediate attention as soon as you recognize something's not right. Yeah.
Very much so. I remember when we were on the Serengeti, we had to be careful with the water. We had to drink only, we were told which water was the safe water to drink and things like that. And, it definitely gives you pause because you don't have that kind of situation here in America, right? Too much. But if you're out remote like that, you have to be prepared. So if cholera was something happening out at the time of, this haunting, this story, I mean, out in Wyoming, even now, you can get some very remote areas, right? It's not as
That's
populated
true.
as other areas of our country. And so if you're not close enough to a medical center or, medical help, it's definitely life-threatening. I mean, I think cholera was the one thing is, we got immunizations for I can't tell you how many different things, but I think cholera was the one that was scary, the most scary to us. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I mean, it looks as I listen to you speak and I'm looking it up, it looks like you have a short window, and otherwise you're going to the light essentially. It's that fast, so it's in very no, thank you. I'll skip the cholera. I don't know about you, Ryan, but I'll skip it.
Yep, yep, absolutely. I know, it kind of reminds me of norovirus, only a lot worse.
Oh, more
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. And you get it from water and food.
Right.
So it's not like you can't avoid
Right.
eating or having water when you're living. So, you just have to be real safe about it.
Yeah.
We were told don't eat any raw fruit, don't eat any, kind of things that haven't been peeled or cooked or like, makes you really kind of paranoid a bit.
I guess it makes you appreciate, being in the United States and having the availability to fresh fruit and vegetables. And, we're a food rich country. And so when we go overseas or travel abroad, right, we don't realize how good we have it sometimes, right? especially with everything going on and the economics of our world. But so I continued through Wyoming and I came across a hotel called the Irma Hotel, which is in Cody, Wyoming. And Cody, Wyoming is actually lots of folklore about Buffalo Bill Cody. Buffalo Bill Cody was obviously back in his day. He was a showman. He was a premier showman. He was a bison hunter. He was also an Army Scout. And he really achieved global fame, between 1883, I believe it was, to like 1913. So he was the one that created a massive traveling show. He also kind of romanticized like American frontier. And with his shows, it really kind of brought out the real cowboys, what they considered back in that time what a real cowboy was. But it was known that he would stay at this Irma Hotel, and he is said to this day, the folklore is said to this day, that he himself will help you check in. And as you go to your room, he is your friendly check-in room, like the butler would do, to make sure everything's okay with you. And it is also said that when you're there, he will want to introduce you to his daughter, Irma. And she is often seen in the hotel in a rocking chair. I tried to find more information about this rocking chair, but apparently this was a room that has a rocking chair in it. And this is where his daughter Irma loved to sit, which is lovely. Like, it is also said that if you roam through the Irma Hotel, that you will see an apparition without legs. The legless man, he is called. Yeah,
Okay.
I love that.
Yeah, why not? Yeah. Legless man.
I think this is a great opportunity with this story to just talk about, like, in the psychic world, especially if you're clairvoyant, whether you see with your third eye or you actually see with, your own eyes, not all spirits form a perfect image. And, it is very hard for a spirit to sometimes gather enough energy to form the perfect image. And so when I hear this legless apparition, you have to wonder if he's residual, which I don't think so, because he's not able to gather enough, energy to form the perfect person. And it doesn't mean you need to be afraid of it. It just means whatever, energy that's available between the energy of the rooms and the hotel and the lights and your energy, right? We don't always form the perfect form. And sometimes we get scared by that because obviously we're used to, in our work, life, to see people that are fully formed. But it's don't be afraid. Like, talk to it. If you happen to go here and you see the legless man, find out why he's legless. Maybe he lost his legs in the battle, and that's why his apparition doesn't have legs. I couldn't find definitive information if he had lost his legs and that's why he's the legless apparition, or if he's legless because he just can't form enough energy to form a whole body.
So
Right?
here's a question for you two. What would you rather come across if, say you weren't psychic, and would you rather come across an apparition with no head, the headless ghost that we've talked about, or would you rather come across a legless apparition? Which would be like more off-putting to you? I happen to think the legless one for some reason.
Really?
Yeah, because I would think if I was seeing the full body and no head, that maybe the head's being blocked by something, but it's probably there. I don't know. I think the no limbs to me is more jarring.
What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think if I saw a spirit without a head, I think that would be a bit more like shocking to me. I feel like if they didn't have limbs, I'd be like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know, I don't know why. Like, the limbs just feels like it's not as shocking to see that.
Yeah, see, I don't know. I don't think either one of them is shocking to me. I think I might be off put for a second, but then I would immediately regain some balance and just be like, okay, this is how it is. You know, But I suppose for me, not having a head would be more shocking. I've been privy enough to be around people who are paraplegic, so
Mhm.
like it's not off-putting to me,
Mhm.
especially our veterans that come home paraplegic, or you know, I've had loved ones in my family who are severe diabetics and unfortunately have lost limbs. So I think the headless one would be a little more off putting, but I would quickly regain composure and just be like, so where's your head?
Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
I think a headless spirit, obviously they were decapitated. They lost their head that way, and that's
Mm.
how it ended, right?
Yeah.
But to me, there's a tragic story maybe between the loss of limb
Yeah.
Oh,
and having
okay.
to
Yeah.
survive that and go through it. So I almost would rather deal with a headless spirit,
Yeah.
because to me that's a one and done story where a spirit with no limbs is going to come with quite a tragic story. And being set in it, I think it would really impact me.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's understandable. Do you
Yeah.
think also could it be like, let's say a spirit doesn't have a head? Do you think it could also be just simply that they just didn't have all the energy to be able to show it, and that's why it's not there? Or is
Could
it
be.
mostly because of when they passed, their head got cut off? To put
Yeah.
it like,
I think with either case, no
okay,
limb, no head, it could be a
yeah,
matter of having enough energy to fully form. Sure.
I
okay, that's
also think in
understandable.
this situation, let's talk about our history, right? In early time, how did we how did we do away with our criminals? We hung them, or we guillotined them, or right. So like if the energy of that ghost matches a time frame of our history where you know their head was chopped off, that would
Mhm.
make sense why maybe their head's not there, right? Or a lynching where maybe the neck snapped, the head clean off. Like, so if it's a spirit that passed in 2000, whatever, we have to question why you're missing your head. So,
Yeah, yeah.
because we don't do that anymore, right? We don't lynch anybody. We don't put them in a guillotine and slice their heads off from sever their heads from their bodies anymore. We're a little more humane at this point. We just electrocute you. Um,
I think part of my like creepiness of the no limbs thing, it probably stems from something I saw on TV, like a horror or something. Have a clear memory of somebody like on a scooter, let's say their torso on a scooter coming up behind somebody and it being like, that is so creepy. And in my mind thinking, I better not turn around and find anyone coming in on a like scooter kind of thing. I want to say it was probably an X-Files that I'm remembering or something like that. And it just got, usually I enjoy the X-Files, but there have been some real creepy one of those too. They're just like, I don't want to run across that. But back to your story. Go ahead.
well, anyways, if we when we get down to Cody, Wyoming, there are 3 rooms, so there's 3 of us. It'll be perfect. Room 16 is said to be, the daughter of Irma's room, and maybe this is where her rocking chair is. So room 16 is Irma's room, and she is said to be seen in there, and she will have a full intellectual conversation with you if you engage. There is also reports of room 35 and 37 where you will have your personal belongings moved around in the room while you're there. It is also said that the spirits in room 35 and 37 will turn on the water. So maybe they're
Mm.
helping you with your hygiene, I'm not sure, or getting your attention by turning the water on, or maybe you need to brush your teeth. I'm not really sure what's going on with the whole water thing there. Water is fluidity, it does create energy. So maybe that's their way of being able to pull energy from source to kind of form themselves. But it's great. It's there's a strong mix of residual energy here. There's a strong mix of intellectual energy. Lots of typical footsteps and lights and guest interaction, which is fantastic. I think the Irma Hotel clearly shows that there's with the ghosts that are there, there's a lot of emotional attachment to it because it's family legacy between Wild Bill Cody and so there's still, consistent there, people, this is still a hotel that you can go stay at, which I find absolutely awesome. And my last one I'm going to report on here is Miss Kate Arnold, who resides at the Sheridan Inn in Sheridan, Wyoming. This Sheridan Inn was built in 1893. It is in Sheridan, Wyoming, and Miss Kate Arnold is said to be a longtime worker there. She is definitely a spirit that chooses to stay. She is said that when you walk down the halls, you'll hear her footsteps behind you. She'll open the doors for you as you go into your rooms. She presents as cold spots to let you know that she is standing close by. And she is said to be an intellectual haunting, and she wants to engage. She's not shy, which I think is fantastic. If she wants to open the door and come in and set my stuff up while we stay, I'm happy for that. I'm happy for the conversation too, right? How about you? You guys want to have a conversation with her, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. There was one other one in Wyoming, which was Jackson, Wyoming, and that's the Wart Hotel. And this is more, this isn't an old folklore story. This actually happened in 1964. The hotel saw massive tragedy. And unfortunately, due to that tragedy, 2 young sisters perished away. And so it is said that you can hear them running feverishly through the hotel, which I don't know if I really want to experience that. But there is also the engineer, Bob. And Bob is said that he was the maintenance engineer there and he took good care of the hotel until now it was very unclear what the tragedy was. It seems that maybe there was an explosion or maybe some kind of fire. I don't know. I guess that's why here, that's why they're reporting on like people running as quickly as possible out of this hotel. But apparently Bob likes to come in and rearrange your room, not the furniture, your items, any items you set on like maybe the dresser, like your toothbrush or hairbrush or whatever. But I thought that was cool. Like, he wants to let you know that he's tidying up for you and making sure everything's working properly. So it was very cool. So out of this discovery, we had the white dress at the Occidental, with Emily, and then definitely the young ladies, the young children. So it was very exciting. And again, anybody that lives in Wyoming wants to have us come out and do some recording, we'd love to talk to you. If you have any further stories of what we found, we definitely want to hear about you.
Very cool.
That was really cool. See, I thought there was going to be maybe, I don't know, we were talking about, what was it, Idaho, that we thought maybe there might be some crops or something. I don't know. I didn't know if anything was going to, does Wyoming have crops and corn as well? I don't know.
They have more cattle, I think.
Cattle?
Yeah.
That's what it is. Okay.
It's the terrain there can go from, desert-like conditions to lush, depending on which border of Wyoming you're on, right? So, yeah, I didn't find, there was lots of cowboy stories, but nothing tied to, like, where I could do enough homework to, talk about all the cowboy stories on the frontier. That might be a whole other topic we do with the podcast, the frontier cowboys.
All these states, Wyoming, Colorado, Idaho, Montana, Utah, is the Rocky Mountains. Go through all of them. So it's a mountains terrain. With areas that are flatter, of course, but it's mountainous. So I don't know how many crops per se. Although Idaho has its potatoes.
Right.
Yep.
That's true. That's a good point.
All right.
Lisa, do you want to go next?
Sure. So I had the state of Colorado, and I've been lucky enough to have been to Colorado a couple times. And there's a lot in Colorado, but you can't go to Colorado without talking about the Stanley Hotel. And so I did a real deep dive in the Stanley Hotel and I found out there's a lot there. And so my whole thing for the podcast is going to be just on this one hotel because it's going to take up all the time I have in which to talk. So the Stanley Hotel is found in Estes, Colorado, and I happened to have been out to a retreat in Estes Park, Colorado. So, and my husband was with me, and we actually went to the Stanley Hotel not to stay overnight. We were someplace else for the retreat center, for the retreat that we were doing, but we did go to the Stanley Hotel to have dinner. Um, and I can tell you, when you go into the hotel, you're not allowed to roam it.
Hmm.
I think they have put, and this was, back before the pandemic. So this was back before, 2020 or 2019. You weren't allowed to roam it then. I can't imagine you're allowed to roam it now. And I think that's because of so much paranormal stuff that happens that they get too many people who are ghost hunters or looking for that ghostly paranormal experience that just come to the hotel to walk around and see if they can find it, right? So they have the rule you can't roam the hotel, particularly in the residential area. So we could only go to the restaurant and back. And so I did walk into the lobby, but couldn't really, do too much there. Didn't have much time to stay there because of our reservations and whatnot. But I have to tell you that the Stanley Hotel is quite the imposing building. It is huge. It stands on, up looking over the town of Estes. It's quite the intimidating building. It's big. And of course, at night, it looks a little eerie being so big. But so to tell you about the hauntings at the Stanley Hotel, I kind of have to give you a little bit of the history of the person who created the Stanley Hotel and the reasons around it. So there was an inventor named Freeland Oscar Stanley. We're just going to call him FO because that's how he's referred to in so many things that I've read about. FO Stanley. So he built this hotel in 1909 with his brother. He co-founded the Stanley Motor Company, and so he co-invented the Stanley Steamer Auto. That's that old-fashioned kind of car.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
are so cool.
Yeah.
We were at a show in Newport couple summers ago, and what's that famous comedian that owns the house in Newport? Jay Leno. Jay Leno actually owns a Stanley Steamer, and you can go on YouTube, and he has he's a car enthusiast, but he actually had the Stanley Steamer at the auto show, and he was doing demonstrations. What a fascinating car. And what a shame that, and I won't get into it politically, but like, here's a car that purely runs on water, right? Of course they blow up, but because of the steam, but like a pressure cooker. But if our world was to not be able to get our hands on oil, we could all turn over to a Stanley Steamer car, right?
Yeah, so he was, he's the inventor of that. So he's quite the inventor. But as we talked about before, I can't remember on which episode. Remember we talked about tuberculosis and how that impacted one of the other ghost stories that we were talking about? Well, he suffered from tuberculosis, and in 1903, the doctors gave him only a very short time to live. And true to that time period, it was thought that clean air was the cure for tuberculosis, that was going to be helpful. So he moved to the Rocky Mountain area for that cool, crisp, dry air that was supposed to or believed to be the remedy for tuberculosis at the time. And as it turned out, by being in this area, Estes area, right at the base of the Rocky Mountains, of course, he went there to die peacefully, is what it was. He wanted to be out and we're in a peaceful area. He regained his health. And he was apparently cured by the end of the summer. Yeah. So, and because of that, FO wanted to bring comfort and elegance to the many people who were seeking health and relaxation. So he set upon it himself to create Estes as a resort town.
Wow.
He built, I think, a water, what do you call it? Factory that would make electricity. There's a name for that, which I can't seem to find in that area to provide electricity and all this stuff. And he set on creating this hotel. So the construction of this particular Stanley Hotel began in 1907, and it was 25 miles from the nearest railroad station, just so you know. So it's quite a distance back then.
Hmm.
Uh, and this was a high class hotel. The Stanley Hotel was high class. There were bathrooms in every guest room, which was never really heard of. Electric lights all throughout the hotel. Telephones and uniformed workers were part of this hotel. So back in 1907, this was like the highest of class.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think it might be the first all electric hotel.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
But on June 22nd in 1909, it opened its doors to, believe it or not, 150 druggists from the Colorado State Pharmaceutical Association. There you go. So its grand opening was in June 22nd, 1909. And then, so what does that have to do with, the haunting? Well, just so you know a little bit about F.O. Stanley and why he opened this hotel. 2 years to the almost to the day of the opening of this hotel to the public, the hotel experienced its largest disaster in its history, if not of all of Estes Park. On the evening of June 25th, 1911, basically the timestamp was 7:50 p.m., a colossal explosion happened. It could be heard all through Estes Park. It could be heard like over a mile away. And it originated directly below room 217. So just scroll that away for a while, room 217. What had happened was there was a gas buildup between the dining room and the second floor, which created tremendous pressure between the hotel walls. So even though electricity was readily available throughout the hotel, F.O. Stanley had installed a gas generator and put gas lamps in each of the rooms just in case of a power outage. And it was that morning of June 25th, that morning, there was something that indicated that the electrical plant was having issues and that it could lead to failure. So in response, the staff was instructed to activate the gas system. So the pipes filled with the odorless gas for the first time, and this likely the system has not been tested. The pressure led to the formation of a small leak above the dining room. And now enter in Elizabeth Lizzie Wilson. By the way, we're not really sure if Wilson was her last name because after this explosion, it was reported of several different last names. But enter the head chambermaid, Lizzie Wilson, and she ignited the escaping gas when she lit a candle in room
Mm.
217. And that created
Goodness.
the explosion, right? So
Yeah.
apparently this explosion, it blew several doors off their hinges. At least 10 plate glass windows on the ground floor were shattered. It destroyed 10% of the 70,000 square foot hotel and all of the West Wing. So what
Wow.
happened to Elizabeth Wilson, do you think?
Hmm.
She did not die. Believe it or not.
Oh,
Nope. She actually
that's a turn of
fell.
events. Okay.
Yeah, she actually fell to the dining room below her,
Hmm.
miraculously not dying, but she did break both her ankles. And
Ouch. Yeah.
now there's a couple versions of the stories of what happened with Lizzie. Actually, some say that there were two other maids with her. One of them was thrown into a wall, but heroically grabbed a fire extinguisher to fight the inferno. I don't know.
Hmm.
None of that's really kind of like corroborated, but these are some stories. But there is a story that Lizzie went into a coma where she was in a coma anywhere from 2 days to 2 years.
Oh, okay. That's a range.
That's a range. But when she woke up, so that's very unclear, but when she woke up, this part is real. She went right back to work at the Stanley Hotel where she worked until she died of old age in 1950.
Wow.
Okay. So now we have Lizzie. She's dead at 1950. Almost immediately after her death, in the late 1950s, haunting started in room 217, where the
Hmm.
explosion was. Yep. And they haven't ceased since. They've been ongoing since.
Hmm.
So, what has been reported there? Strange activity that disrupts sleep of guests in room 217. So this maid, Lizzie, she still resides in that room. And what she will do, if an unmarried couple is in that room, they will often get awoken because some invisible force is pushing them apart. Like they,
Interesting.
yep, don't sleep next to each other. Mhm.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
She takes the luggage of single men and leaves it outside their door. letting them know that a bachelor lifestyle is not welcome at the Stanley Hotel. Quite the prude, right? But she's actually known to be relatively friendly to most people. She spends most of her time cleaning the rooms, making herself as busy as she was in real life, in her afterlife. So guests have reported seeing her walk through walls, interrupting their sleep. This has been going on for many years. Yeah, so Lizzie is the haunter of room 217, moving objects around, all the usual stuff. But I found that fascinating that, you better be married if you're going to stay in that room because you will not be allowed to sleep next to each other.
I wonder if the hotel even asks, like, "Oh, are you married?
Yeah,
If
right.
so, we have this room that you can stay in."
You'll be
So
safe.
old-fashioned thinking.
Yeah,
I know.
if you're not married, then please do not leave a negative review.
So now the story of ghost hauntings are not just relegated to room 217. There is actually no floor, no area that's off limit to spiritual activity in this hotel. It has been well documented in many, many pictures with ghosts in them that taken by guests.
Hmm.
So let's talk about Lucy. Lucy is a spiritual haunt there's a second building to the right of the main lobby, and it's considered one of the most haunted of the Stanley Hotel's 11 buildings. It was built initially for the wife of FO, Flora Stanley, and it was built as a symphony hall in the style of the Boston Symphony Hall. And many spirits call this concert hall their home. So let me tell you a little bit about Lucy. Lucy's a little bit more of a recent ghost or haunt. Just so you know, the Stanley Hotel, a little bit of the history here, has went through its period of multiple owners, right? Because of where it's located, it was considered a seasonal hotel because in the winter it had to close. Not only do the roads that lead to it had to be closed because of snow, but the hotel itself didn't get heat until 1983.
Hmm. Wow.
So, yeah. So it would close in the winter, obviously. And because of that, it's hard to upkeep it. It's hard to make a profit off it. So it went through many different owners. Even FO, he sold the hotel in 1926, but then he repurchased it 3 years later. Then he sold it again, obviously because, it was difficult to care for. Frank Nomali bought it in 1974, which is the year that Stephen King came to stay at the hotel. And we'll talk about Stephen King and all of that in a little bit. And he restored it to its original glory, so to speak. But then and he created in 1977 the Stanley Historic District, which protected the hotel and the surrounding buildings. But even more was needed to save. It went through a cycle of being on the market, near bankruptcy, and coming back. And that cycle just repeated with every owner. But in 1995, the hotel was again on the verge of bankruptcy and was up for sale. And it was during this period that the concert hall, this building, had a hole in it large enough to see the sky. And this is how Lucy found her way into the concert hall. And even though her story largely remains unknown, but it is known that she lived alone in the concert hall while the hotel was up for sale. So she was basically a squatter, right? But when it was bought by John Cullen, bought it in 1996 for just $3.1 million, by the way.
All right, I'll run out and grab the checkbook.
But you figure a hotel this size for $3.1 million, it's got to be close to a couple hundred now, right?
Yeah,
Million.
oh,
Um,
absolutely.
she was discovered, of course, in the concert hall, and she was forced out. And soon she was forced out when it was being renovated. And it is said that she froze to death outside the Stanley Hotel.
Oh,
Yep. So Lucy's ghost is highly active, and she's active, of course, in this concert hall where she spent
Hmm.
part of her life. So she's still happy to call the Stanley her home. She is often witnessed in the concert hall. Visitors, whether they're on a ghost tour or by themselves or whatever, have seen the door to the concert hall open and close on its own multiple times. This is a normal occurrence, apparently. And these actions are often accompanied by the strange whispers of a woman, it's said.
Hmm.
And who's not there, whispers of a woman. And so it is known to be that Lucy is known to manipulate, the door, be the one that whispers. I think Lucy's been even caught like on some of these ghost hunting TV shows to manipulate the flashlights, like we did with Gregory in the studio. There's a photo of a hotel guest in the concert hall, and behind her, the reflection is the apparition of another woman who's believed to be Lucy. So if you go to Stanley Hotel, look for that photo.
Hmm.
Lucy's not the only one in the concert hall. I'm telling you, this hotel's got a ton of stuff in it. There are two other noisy spirits that join Lucy in the concert hall, and they're irritable. And they are the janitors, Paul and Edward.
Okay.
Both were handyman at Stanley, and they are there for eternity, tending to their former office, basically in torment. Paul died of a heart attack, and he survived that initial attack, but died in the car on the way to the hospital. And he often reported yelling at others to get out, and is very particular about closing time. So his ghost is most active after 11 p.m. curfew that he once enforced for the hotel. So he would enforce the 11 p.m. Curfew in real life and no different in spirit life.
Okay.
He yelled at to get out by
Do,
Paul.
do you think he's in spirit now he's just annoyed that he passed and so now he's just like annoyed and just being irritable perhaps like because he
Oh,
wanted to
maybe, maybe. I think Lucy is an intelligent haunt.
yeah
I
yeah
wonder, and I also think Lizzie's an intelligent haunt. I wonder if Paul yelling at people to get out after 11 is residual.
oh, okay
I don't know,
yeah
right? But Edward, believe it or not, he's even less friendly than Paul,
uh-oh
apparently. He will aggressively bang in the concert hall near the front of the building where he once worked. He wasn't apparently in life, he wasn't a big fan of people, and nothing's really changed. There's been many unpleasant run-ins with the spirit.
oh
So,
geez
so that's the concert hall. We're not done. F.O. Stanley and his wife Flora also haunt the Stanley Hotel. So they are said to be most often found at the 217 Wine Bar in the lobby. It was once the music room,
Hmm.
and inside it, it features a 7.5-foot Steinway piano that once belonged to Mrs. Stanley, Flora Stanley herself. Now, she suffered a stroke in the Stanley and died 10 days later. Um, and she loved the Rocky Mountains just as much as her husband, so it makes sense that she would stay in this hotel or want to be here. But more than Rocky Mountains, she loved her piano music. She loved playing music. She basically carried this over into her afterlife. So her piano was often heard eerily playing itself late at night.
oh wow
And it seems Flora does not like anyone else playing on her piano. It's her prized possession because the piano cover has slammed down on many of fingers that have attempted to play her piano.
oh okay all right so I'm not gonna try
No,
that
no, keep
Yeah,
your
no,
fingers
no.
to
yeah
yourself.
no no
Although, wait, no, you have to.
all right
Yeah, you kind of have to
all right
just practice reflexes.
yeah
Pulling
exactly
away.
yep yep
How quickly can you pull out? Right.
I'll play a little and then stop and let's see what happens. Pull out
Touch
the
it,
fingers,
pull your fingers back.
Absolutely.
and we'll be
You gotta
filming
let
it.
her know.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Let her know that Rockstar Ryan is here.
so when you hear the piano music, Flora is basically busy playing the piano, but Fo always hangs around with his wife, and he passed away in 1940, but he does hang around the music room with her. It is said that in life they really enjoyed long evenings entertaining their guests at this hotel. So his face you can often see in reflections throughout the lobby and also in the music room. So it's it's interesting. In the music room is a giant mirror, and so you can see reflections in that mirror too.
Hmm.
And what also is reported, many reports of parties that carry on late into the night that are in the adjacent ballroom, the McGregor Ballroom next to it. You can hear the clink of glasses, cheerful laughter that go through the hotel. And once the rooms are opened, once the room is opened, all that stops. All that stops.
Hmm.
All that, yeah, it's really kind of interesting. Really kind of interesting. So, all right. So we're not done. We're not done because one of the more haunted places of the hotel is the fourth floor.
Oh,
The fourth
okay.
floor of the hotel. So the fourth floor of the main building, you will hear, and this is known as the never-ending hallway of children, apparently, because the way it is constructed with the doorway at the end of the hallway, it gives an optical illusion of never ending, apparently. Uh,
Really?
yeah.
Huh.
Yep. Yep. So in this hallway, small ghost children have been spotted running around the floor, and you'll hear them playing, you'll hear their voices and stuff like that. And this is kind of interesting. Many visitors leave lollipops for them as small treats,
Oh.
only
Oh.
to find them move to new and hard to reach locations the following day. So historically, the fourth floor is where the children of the wealthier families and their nannies would stay.
Oh.
So this makes sense why there's children up on the fourth floor. And it
Wow.
makes sense why those lollipops are put out of reach of the children. The nannies are
Oh.
saying, no, no sugar for these guys, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yep. Room 418 has a reputation of being haunted by little boy ghosts. Sometimes you'll see the impressions of a body left on the bed there after it's been made. The hotel staff often report strange noises coming from inside the room when it's empty.
Hmm.
So aside from the children of of fourth floor, in rooms 407 and in room 428, you're going to find the Irishman and the cowboy. So I tell you, there's so many stories. It goes on forever. Room 407 of the Stanley Hotel is known to be the home of a very angry Irishman who watches silently from the corner. He will flicker lights. He'll sometimes pull on the hair. He will sometimes yank the bed covers.
Really?
Yep. They named him Lord Dunraven. Basically, that's the name of a very unpopular Irish earl who once ruled the land. So I don't know what an Irish earl was doing ruling this land of the Rocky Mountains, but there you go.
Yeah.
In- yeah, right. In room 428, it's a different kind of entity. They say it's the mountain man Jim Rocky Mountain Nugent. And he was a famous or infamous outlaw. Before Colorado became a state, he was an outlaw. It is said that half his face is disfigured from a grizzly bear fight. Whenever you would use the name Jim Rocky Mountain Nugent, apparently this would strike fear in the hearts of people in the Rockies area back in the day.
Wow.
Anyway, he really opposed Lord Dunraven. He didn't want Lord Dunraven to purchase this land in the 1870s, and he was shot for it.
Hmm.
Died later with a bullet in his brain. So the guests in room 428 feel the presence of a man sitting at the foot of their bed or sitting in the corner just watching them. He doesn't do anything more than that, but the overwhelming feeling. Oh, actually, he does do something to the female guests. Female guests sometimes will report the tickle of lips brushing them awake in the middle of the night.
Uh,
Dirty bird. He's a dirty bird.
You gotta kiss them ladies. Gotta kiss them ladies. So I find it interesting that both these men are on the same floor of the Stanley Hotel.
this is like a whole community of spirits. Just like
It is.
It
this
is.
is crazy.
So it got me thinking, why are so many spirits here at this hotel? I mean, it's
Yeah.
enlarged, but I've looked at other hotels that had large areas. So there is some theories as to why so many spirits at the hotel. So a lot of paranormal investigators claim that the 101 foot wide library and its spiral staircase are responsible for much of the experiences at the Stanley because there's a they believe there's a portal above the stairs that's created by opposing mirrors. And these opposing mirrors are said to entice numerous spirits into, I'm raising my hand, into
So I
the
guess
Stanley Hotel,
so
right?
spirits agree with that because of
Yeah,
it.
right.
So our listeners can't see this, but we're recording over Zoom right now, and Lisa's screen is randomly raising a hand. So as she's talking about the portal. So I guess
Yeah, I got something to say.
yeah, spirits agree with what she's saying.
The staircase and the lobby is a hotbed of spirit activity. Many reports of seeing apparitions walk down the staircase, walk out the door, people coming through these portals, apparently. So I did a deep dive on mirrors facing each other and does it actually create a portal? So when two mirrors are facing each other, it creates this infinite loop of images, right? And this repeated images creates a visual tunnel of what's called unbroken continuity, meaning there's no beginning, no end. And it is believed by some spiritual systems that energies flow or follow a particular path, whether it's linear or spiral, it doesn't matter, but there's always going to be a pattern to it. So when the two mirrors are facing each other, the repeated pattern created is believed to be a channel of uninterrupted spiritual energy. And this is a setup for a bridge between the spiritual world and our own. Two mirrors in the Stanley Hotel lobby act as portals, ushering in hundreds of, I guess, entities. It is also the most famous connections between the dead and the living in the United States. Mirrors in this lobby. And maybe that's why there's so much activity on the staircase and in the lobby too. And I found this fascinating because this hotel was built during the Victorian time, and you're going to find many, many mirrors throughout this hotel. Victorians were fascinated with the occult and spiritualism, and mirrors played a large role in those beliefs. Mirrors set up to reflect each other might offer a glimpse into the spirit world or show you a spirit. So many Victorians would put the mirrors in their house. And, this goes back to a whole lot of other stories about mirrors. You've heard the Bloody Mary stories or the Candyman story. You chant that, and through the portal of the mirror comes, this entity. Some people say this is a portal to hell. I don't think it's really hell. These spirits don't seem to be, demonic in any way. And then another rumor about why so much spiritual activity in the Stanley is there are some rumors that the Stanley Hotel was built upon a native burial ground. There are doubts that exist to this theory, but it's supposed to be built Indian burial ground, but I don't think so. The fact is, though, that the area was once a Ute and an Arapaho. And so that could add some credence to that subject. But most people believe that the vortex or this portal is the theory of the mirrors is what is, more true. Now, can't talk about the Stanley Hotel without talking about Stephen King and the movie The Shining. So if most people who don't know Stephen King, he writes books usually in the horror genre, and The Shining, and many of his books have become movies, and The Shining was no different. But Stephen King, it is said, stayed in the infamous room of 217. So the story goes, Stephen King, he stayed in this room with his wife, Tabitha, at the end of the September of 1974. The two had been on a tour of the Rocky Mountains. They headed to Grand Lake, but a blizzard shut down the Trail Ridge Road, and they had to turn back. They came to the Stanley, which was closing for the season on the following day, because the Stanley didn't have heat until 1983. So it closed every winter. Somehow, the Kings convinced the two remaining staff, the housekeeper and the bartender, to let them stay the night. The four of them were the only people in this huge empty hotel, right? A number of strange things then happened to Stephen King over the course of the evening. So while exploring on the fourth floor, King saw twin girls who seemed so well behaved. The author later complimented the housekeeper on them, thinking they were her children, only to be told that she had no children. Other versions state that King was on the second floor and saw a single boy. Either way, Stephen King saw some child that really wasn't there. Later that night, Stephen King went down to the bar by himself and met the barkeep, Lloyd, who had become a key character in the movie Shining. And actually, Stephen King's not even sure if the man was real, because the whole situation seemed very eerily surreal to him. And then just a little backstory. Stephen King was in the process of writing a book at the time about some sort of berserk roller coaster that jumped off its tracks and attacked people, but apparently it wasn't going so great. He's had writer's block. His stay at the Stanley fixed his writer block. Now, these are King's words. According to King, that night, I dreamt of my 3-year-old son running through the corridors, looking back over his shoulder, eyes wide, screaming. He was being chased by a fire hose. I want you to remember room 217 exploded and was on fire.
Oh, wow.
I woke up with a tremendous jerk, sweating all over, within an inch of falling out of bed. I got up, sat in a chair, looking out the window at the Rockies, and by the time he was done smoking a cigarette, he had the bones of a book firmly set in mind. So he abandoned his roller coaster in deference to his horror classic, The Shining, which he published in 1977, 3 years later. And
Wow.
I don't know if you know anything about the story of The Shining, but the story of The Shining is about a writer who has writer's block that decides to take a caretaker job at a hotel that closes for the season. He moves his wife and his son to this hotel for the season to take care of the hotel, where he then proceeds to go mad. His son has psychic visions while at the hotel of 2 twin girls, of different things, and it's, the horror then unfolds. So The Shining was made into a movie in 1980. And just so people know, the famous hedge scene that's in that movie, the hedge maze did not exist at the Stanley Hotel at the time, but it was built after, of course, after the fact in 2015. You can go to the hedge maze now. And what's interesting about the Stanley Hotel is it was never, even though it was the inspiration for The Shining, it was never actually shown in the movie. The hotel scenes were not shot at the Stanley Hotel. Nothing was shot at the Stanley Hotel, except for in 1997, Stephen King filmed his adaptation, a miniseries of The Shining at the actual Stanley Hotel. And then the other film it was featured in was the movie Dumb and Dumber. And a quick story about that, Jim Carrey, one of the stars of Dumb and Dumber, apparently stayed in room 217. And according to the hotel lore and various accounts, Carrey, who was filming this at the time, lasted only 3 hours in the room before checking out abruptly in the middle of the night, reportedly visibly spooked. And he has never talked about it.
Wow.
So that's the Stanley Hotel of Colorado. And there's so much in this one hotel. And it's not the only thing that's spooky in Colorado.
Right.
No way,
Right.
right?
I don't have any more time to tell you more about Colorado. So we'll have to maybe revisit Colorado and some of the things, because there was a haunted road and all these other things. But the Stanley Hotel has enough going on for any paranormal seeker. Go to the Stanley Hotel. I do think they do probably, they can't not do ghost tours through here,
Right.
So we had a lovely meal. I'm going to tell you that. We had a lovely meal there.
I mean, it sounds like regardless of wherever you go, like whoever goes, wherever you go in the Stanley Hotel, you're bound to experience something.
Right.
So, now, Lisa, did you actually experience anything when you were there?
I was not there long enough, I think, to experience. I did not. I cannot. But we did meet a couple people that did have stories, and we have to definitely interview them for their stories, what they experienced at the Stanley Hotel. If I ever go back to Estes Park, it is one of my things to try and stay at the Stanley Hotel. I'm telling you, just seeing the hotel from a distance can give you the heebie-jeebies a little bit. You're like, ooh, little creepy feel. Got to go there. So that was the Stanley Hotel of Colorado. So what did you find in Montana?
Wow. I don't know how I can top all of that, but
That's a hotbed of.
that's incredible.
It has to be a portal. It has to be a portal above
I
that.
agree. I was just gonna say I'm blown away by the idea of there's a portal, and that would make sense with all these spirits just like cohabiting. Like it's just crazy.
Well, not just the resident spirits that stay there, but there's
Yes.
so many stories and pictures. I actually went on a deep dive to look at people's photos of what they capture walking down the staircase out the door.
Wow.
Yay, I'm free. Let me walk out this way.
Yeah. That's incredible. Well, whenever we get a bus and go on a trip, then we'll definitely hit up the Stanley Hotel.
That'll be good.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's important here too to just for our listeners who might not, who are just getting into metaphysics here, as Lisa's talking about the energy of this area, where the hotel is located, and we've referred it to as a portal of energy. For those of you who are just coming into metaphysics, there is a long belief, right, of portal of energies, like the ley lines of the earth and the graphic designs that the ley lines create around our earth. And a portal of energy of land is like where specific locations where earth and the magnetic fields connects to the sun and the several different ley lines that intersect, creating powerful intersections, right? It creates vortex of energy which funnel in those particular spots, which in the metaphysical world, there's people that say those funnel of energies create like dimensional energy where your state of consciousness is altered, right? I mean, I think it's important to know that because there's ley lines all around the world. And if it happens to be, a doorway at Stanley Hotel, let's do it. Let's go have a spiritual connection in a different way than what we're having here in, Connecticut.
It'd be interested to know if the ley lines that cross the portals that are found in Sedona are along the same ley lines that go up through Estes, Colorado.
Oh, that's a good question.
Because I mean, Sedona is known as a hotbed of portal too, right? A hotbed of area of.
Absolutely,
That's true.
absolutely. So,
That's true.
so you think maybe the ley line goes through Sodana? I'll be okay. Sedona to Colorado.
Possibly. I don't know. I don't know if they go horizontally around the globe or vertically,
Or both, right?
or
Because they create
diagonally or whatever, but it'd be interesting.
because one of the ley lines around our Earth is the flower pattern, right? The flower grid.
I could ask a couple people I know, like we interviewed Luke Seward. He lives in Longmont, Colorado. So, I wonder if he would know. Not too far from Estes Park.
That's a good
Yeah,
point.
that would be great. Let's ask, yeah, or anybody of our listeners that may be interested in ley lines and geographical shapes that the ley lines form could help us out here.
That's true. So Montana, I know we were kind of slightly joking off air about, perhaps could there be any haunted areas near an Airbnb that has cows? They have they
They
have
have the little,
the
yes.
little cows. I could not find anything that was really close to that Airbnb.
Airbnb that has those little mini Highland cows.
Yeah, yep.
Uh,
So that was a
yeah,
bummer. But you know what? It's just a drive, so maybe we could still stay there with the cows and then just go drive and see where we're gonna go visit. It's like,
with little mini Highland cows, they look so adorable.
I think it'd be a lot of fun to hang out with them. I grew up in cow country, so yeah, that's near and dear to my heart. But anyway, so the first place that I found here is Kempton Hotel in Terry, Montana. It's a small historic hotel built in eastern Montana. It is built in 1902, and it's actually the oldest continuously operating hotel in the state. It's much of it has been preserved in its original early 1900s style as well. So that'd be pretty cool just to go visit and see it. So there's a couple spirits that reside there. There's the woman in white. Often she's the most well-known spirit. She's believed to have been a woman who died during a flu outbreak in the early 1900s. And usually she's seen wearing a long white dress.
Lady White.
Yep.
Another lady in white.
Yep, lady in white, so we gotta write that down. Yep. So she's usually near the attic or the upper floors, and it seems residual because she's usually just kind of standing in the hallways, or she'll like appear briefly in the rooms and then disappear. So yeah, didn't really see much interaction with her. Mostly just she's just there. There's also two children who it's said to be that they were siblings who possibly they passed away from typhoid fever. Did I say that correctly? Whenever I read this word, I want to pronounce it differently. But yeah, anyway, so they passed away there while they were staying at the hotel. Their activity is you can hear them like running footsteps, laughter, movement in otherwise empty areas, and sometimes you'll see them in the upper windows or hallways. So two children. You also have the former owner or caretaker who's there. So they're thinking that this spirit is thought to be a man connected to the hotel's early ownership who passed away in the building in 1949. So I feel like that's more recent. And sometimes, guests feel like, and also workers, employees feel as though he's still there watching over the hotel. So you could hear like heavy footsteps, doors opening and closing on their own. Once again, like related to that spirit. So,
Nice.
So yeah, I feel like most of that is more residual, rather than you're not really interacting with them. So
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
that makes sense.
yeah, yeah. The second place I found was Western Heritage Center in Billings, Montana. So the Western Heritage Center is a museum housed in the historic 1901 library building. So it used to be a library. It currently preserves artifacts and stories from the Yellowstone River Valley in Northern Plains. So sounds like it could be quite educational. Uh,
Yes.
but basically, let's see. So there's a couple spirits in particular that live there, or stay there. There's Priscilla, who's the child spirit. So said to be a young girl who died in childhood. She's mostly in the
Um,
attic and the stairs. You can see her footprints appearing in dust. So I know we've talked about that over the past couple of weeks too, like dust, or what we were talking about, like flour at one point.
Everybody use flour, make a
Yeah,
mess.
yeah. She's often described as playful. There's also the elderly man. So he's usually seen sitting near the basement fireplace. They're wondering if he was a former patron of when it was a library, or perhaps he could be like an artist tied to exhibits that are there. But he just appears calm, and he's just as if he's just observing the museum. So I thought that'd be kind of interesting to kind of walk in there and see someone just observing. You know,
and what hotel is this again?
this is called the Western Heritage Center, so it's a museum.
Okay. Oh, sorry, the
It's a
museum.
museum. Yep,
Okay.
yep, in
Yeah.
Billings, Montana. Yep. Um,
Wow.
and then there's also the elderly woman. She's reported mainly on the first floor or in the exhibit rooms. She's just seen usually wearing like a long dress, and she kind of just glides into the room. So they're wondering if she was maybe a former librarian or just somehow connected to
Okay.
that area. And then the last place that I looked up here is the Belton Chalet. I can't pronounce that word. Chalet. It's
You
in
said it right.
West Glacier, Montana. It's one of the most historic hotels. So, Heather, you might be psychic because we're talking about another hotel. So, but it was built around 1910 by the Great Northern Railway as the first major lodging stop for visitors entering Glacier National Park.
Yeah.
So,
And actually, Ryan, I think I remember somewhere in my past speaking with somebody. I'm pretty sure that I remember someone telling me about an apparition there, and she
oh,
is. Go ahead, you keep talking, and maybe it'll come to me.
okay, all right, it'll come to
Yeah.
you. So, staff and guests reportedly they see a wide range of activity over the years here, like footsteps in empty hallways, lights turning on and off by themselves, doors slamming, water faucets turning on, voices calling out names, objects moving, you name it. However, specific spirits that are there is one of them is called Belton Bob. He's like a prankster, and he's
Oh, great
mostly
for April Fool's Day, right?
yeah, I know, right? Yeah, yeah. Happy April Fools. So he's known for moving objects, making noise with like pots, pans. Like he'll kind of like rattle them, playing tricks on staff. So yeah, I guess he's just having fun. There's also I know we talk about this too, like the we talked about the man in the fedora hat. Well, now we have the man in the derby hat, and
Yeah.
so We're gonna have to start a whole new map for like the man in the green hat. Anyway, so so he's seen in the old railroad station area, and he's just seen wearing a derby hat and like just carrying like a little bag, and you know he's thought to be a traveler from around that time period.
It's interesting, right? So this spirit is attached to a man in life, right?
Yeah,
Who was an unassuming guy, and he's known forevermore as the man with the derby hat.
yeah,
You know,
yes,
if you were to sit here and think, how would I want to be remembered for the rest of eternity?
yeah,
Would you pick, I'd want to be, the lady in white or the man in the derby hat or whatever it might be? You know, it's interesting, right?
yeah, yeah, yep, yep, absolutely.
I'd forever be, the woman with cats or, I don't know.
Right, right. Or, this next spirit is just known as the sobbing presence.
Oh,
What's that?
I wouldn't want to be known for, I don't know. So apparently, guests have reported hearing like crying or sobbing from certain rooms, like room 30 or 37. Sometimes it's just occupied with like voices calling names, whatever, while they're crying. So I can only imagine it must be heartbreak. That's
Where,
my guess.
oh,
So,
yeah.
but that's just residual. And then lastly, there's a rocking chair that in an empty room, there's a rocking chair that will just move on its own, like rock back and forth.
maybe Emily's visiting from Wyoming.
That
Yep.
could be. Or Dolly
Yep.
Madison, right? She was the one that sat in the rocking chair on a porch out in Virginia or something like that, or DC,
Yep.
whatever.
Yep. Mhm. So quite an array of spirit activity actually happening in Montana. Yeah.
For
But so
sure.
if any of our listeners have been to any of these places, it'd be fascinating to hear about any firsthand experience. So feel free
For sure.
to
I do
contact
seem to
us.
recall, though, when I was doing research for Wyoming, that the hotel you were speaking about had the lady in red, and she was known
Mm.
to intellectually connect with you as well.
Hmm.
And I do remember somewhere in my past conversations in life, which, I can't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday. So, um, that this someone had spoken to me about this. So, like,
Hmm.
you can clearly see maybe the guy with the hat and the lady in red were together.
Maybe. You never know. Oh, there you
No.
go. All right, so we'll go to these places. We'll try to find the connections with all these spirits and like, hey, do you hang out with so and so in room 30? Like, what's going on?
Yes, I love this. Why room 30? Yeah. Why does he have a green hat and you're in a red dress? What's
Yeah,
going on
what's going on with this?
here? For
Is,
sure, for
is this
sure.
your favorite rocking chair? What's going on?
Is this the one that creaks a lot and you like to scare people? Yeah.
Well, before we're going to continue our trek through the Rocky Mountain states next week, but before we leave, want to hear what you guys are up to over the weekend. Anything to report?
Hmm. I
You
think
do.
all three of us have something to report, but who wants to go
Yes, we
first?
do. We had an amazing Sunday, this past Sunday, with the Astrological Society of Connecticut and their New Age Fair. We were honored enough to be able to have a table there for our podcast to see if we can interact with some of the listeners. We had quite a few people stop in to support us, see our map of our spirit ladies, and give us some topic ideas. It was a really wonderful experience for Heather and I, we used to do these fair circuits early on in our business. So we were able to see some old faces that we hadn't seen in a while. We connect with some people. I had a wonderful time. I had a wonderful.
Yeah, it was great to be out there. It was great to be at the fair in the capacity of just being able to talk with everybody and, not sitting at the table doing as many psychic readings as possible. And it was just so great to see people we haven't seen in years. And then just to have that reaction of like, oh my God, I haven't seen you in 1,000 years, and it was great. And it was so nice to watch, just everybody come over to the table and engage with us. And some people who knew Lisa and I, just Ryan, just so they got to meet you. And everybody was just so enamored, like, wow, this, you guys make a great team. And I heard that repetitively, like several people that walked over to the table were like, you guys just banter so great. And we're just so happy and proud to be here. And without you, Ryan, we wouldn't be where we were either with this podcast. So like, I'm really glad you got to meet people that we knew, and we got to meet a lot of new faces and just building new memories, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I remember looking to you, Ryan, and saying, what do you think of this kind of fair? Because you've been to other networking kinds of things and different types of fairs for your Artist Haven Media business. But this type of fair of a community of people who think like this, I remember asking you about that and what you thought,
Yeah, it was certainly, I'd say, enlightening, and I truly and inspiring, and I truly appreciated everyone who came to our table, whether they were just curious or the amount of people that came just to talk about their experiences, and it's just like, wow, like this is what it's about, like being in the community, hearing from other people, realizing that we're all not alone as well. So I just found it so fascinating. That was my key takeaway too. People coming up and being like, "Yeah, I experienced something similar like this," and then they felt comfortable enough to actually share it with us at that time too. That was truly incredible. So it was...
I think everybody that met us really, really, well, we promote it anyways, but like we're a safe place, we're a safe space, and with the three of us together and individually, we engulf that kind of like happy, let's talk, we promote that, and people just, I love how comfortable people were. I miss the fairs. I don't miss how tiring those fairs are. I was pretty much a zombie on Monday, but
yeah.
How about you guys?
Yep.
I'm not used to standing on my feet for 6 hours anymore, It
was a great time of connection and just meeting some of the people that were there doing their own product, let's say, or their own service. It was really great. And just personally, just having some connections that were done for me were just really affirming and felt good. Just put it that way. Good. It felt really good. And so grateful, so thankful for the community that is there supporting us and now knows some new people that now know about us, and hopefully it'll bring more listeners our way too.
And some more people who realize we're still in business.
Heather and I heard a lot. What happened to you guys? Where'd you go? I'm like, well, we just So it was lovely. And we got to meet one of your interns too that came out to support and take some photos, which was really wonderful.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, it was fantastic.
Great weekend. And we're so grateful for all our listeners. And again, anybody that would like to invite us out and host us, we would love to come with our equipment and have some fun and just continue this beautiful journey that we're totally in love with and bringing and broadcasting to everyone listening.
What was really cool too for us, and actually you mentioned it too, Ryan, first thing, it's great to see you in person because we've been doing our podcast, recording it through Zoom through the winter. We haven't been in the same place, the three of us together like that in a while. So that was fun too.
Yeah.
Together. So yeah. Anyway. Yeah. All right. It's springtime. I have an affirmation for springtime. Would you all like to hear it?
Absolutely.
Okay. I actually have a couple, but here's one. I release what was and embrace what is. So that's sort of like the new beginning. And then how about this one? Every step I take is leading me toward my highest good.
Yes.
There you go.
And even though this episode is not appearing on April 1st, today is April 1st for this podcast recording. And in the old world, on the first day of every month, we say rabbit, rabbit, rabbit. and that is to solidify the beautiful energy and brings prosperity, because rabbits are all about prosperity and success. So we give you that today, even though when you're listening to this, it's not the first. We bring you prosperity and success for all of us talking to you and all of you listening.
Oh, rabbit, rabbit, rabbit.
Rabbit, rabbit, rabbit.
Ryan.
Yeah, rabbit, rabbit, rabbit.
Oh, come on. Put a little enthusiasm there.
And on that note, we'll see you next week to connect.
Thank you for tuning in to Ready to Connect. If you're interested in exclusive behind-the-scenes content, be sure to like, share, and follow us on social media by searching for Ready to Connect Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And for those looking to further support our podcast, consider subscribing to our Patreon at patreon.com/readytoconnectpodcast. And until next time, get ready to connect.